What do you think is gonna happen?
I like the thing about like coming back and like saying hi to everybody again.
Now it's like whatever. The first time. Yeah, one person comes over. You start having conversations with them.
Those are nice.
Person comes over. It's not feeling like never just like a conversation. One other guy comes over, just a lot of
that too. You can check in, you can check out. Can't get out of here.
I'm so sorry.
Okay. Tell me when we're on the air.
5? What are you doing?
We're on the air. Okay.
What were you doing the whole time?
I'll help, dude. You're off on the wedding of his son. Mazel tov, mazel tov.
Big book of Judaism.
Here's the big book of Jewish questions.
The big book of Jewish sports here.
Okay, good morning. Shalom Aleichem. It's good to see everybody post Pesach. And the timing of this year, usually you see people post Pesach, you may not recognize them. I'm not talking about the pounds people gain over a yontif of eating unleavened bread. But usually after Pesach, people, especially in yeshiva, you see all these bachrim come in with beards, unshaven. People look different. You know, as they say, Panim Chadashos. Yes, yes. Thank you.
They're very handsome.
Thank you. Even with my beard. But, so I entitled today's shir, Shaving During Sefira, a dozen situations where one could be lenient, where it's permitted. And just to put in perspective, you know, Jewish people, we function based on a calendar, obviously the halachas of a calendar, and Sefira is a very unique period. We have 2 periods in the year which it's communal avelos. Bein HaMetzarim, the 3 weeks, building up to the 9 days, the week of Tisha B'Av itself. We know about that period of avelos, and we have the second period of avelos, which really is not too far away from it. What we have now, the period of Sefira. And Sefira is unique, although it is a time on the calendar, the exact standard of when you keep the avelos of Sefira differs. And there are different minhagim. And the purpose of today's share is not to go through those minhagim in general, but more to focus in on shaving. Just to give a quick overview, you have to keep 33 days of avelos when it comes to Sefira. That does utilize hilchas avelos of mixes of Yom Kikulo. So for example, if you start counting from the beginning of Sefira till Lag BaOmer, that would be 33 days. Now, even though practically during Chol Moed, people would listen to music, which is one of the elements of avelos, but that doesn't mean you're not keeping the hilchos of avelos. Those halachos of avelos begin at the beginning of Sefira. You're allowed to listen to music because it's Chol Moed, but what you call first Sefira would go through Lag BaOmer. We would say mixas Yom Kikulo. Once the beginning of the morning is up, the day is finished. So one technically would normally be allowed to shave after Shacharis on the day of Lag BaOmer. Okay? There are other people that only started their Sefira this week. Chodesh Iyar, okay, it's first day, second day. When they conclude, close to Shavuos, fine. But all in all, one of the means, the major halachas, besides not having weddings during Sefira, no, even that, you can play the games. You know, I heard nowadays things are so, it used to be, okay, the week before Rosh Chodesh Iyar, there always were weddings, I believe. And that's because, okay, some people, or Moshe actually says that the second Sefira is the main Sefira. People have been, I think the majority of people probably follow the minute to do the first Sefira, but both minhagim work. So there always were weddings the first part of Sefira. It was not common to find weddings after Lag BaOmer. Even though people keeping first Sefira, at that point, it will be finished. But the way it used to be in Klal Yisrael was, you couldn't, people got married in Lag BaOmer. I had a friend who got married the night of Lag BaOmer, the night of the 33rd, which is a chiddush, but they would need to do that sometimes too. Fine. But in between Lag BaOmer and Shavuos, you didn't usually find weddings. I believe today the halls are booked for weddings in Lakewood every single night post Lag BaOmer. And that's because there's a shortage of places for nice Jewish boys and girls to get married. And Islas Hashem, so we need to do it. It would be mutter if you keep the first Sefira, and that's it. I think at one point in the yeshiva, I'm not sure in Queens if they still have this. I think in Queens they insisted the guys not get married after Lag BaOmer. It's true. It's still a little bit. So, okay, so halachas of getting married, halachas of music, those are other common halachas when it comes to the avelos. But what I want to focus today is on shaving. Shaving, and usually with that go the halachas of haircuts. To me, that's the greatest personal expression that we have about avelos. Listening to music, not listening to music is a whole parsha, and sometimes, there are heterim for that too. But shaving is the practical means. How else do we observe the idea of avelos? It's by not shaving. It's a practical, personal way that a person expresses its Sefira. Now, that being said, so first and foremost, before we get to the heterim, a person should only use a heter, a permissible way to undo something, if he's in this situation where that's the right thing to do. But obviously, the default should always be, look, if there's any way for me to keep this form of avelos, I should try to keep it. I'll get to it in a second. One of the most common heterim out there is for work. A person that needs to shave because of his job, we'll see there's a heter for that. But to put that in perspective, in the world today, a lot of things go, right? The workplace dress code is not what it used to be, by far. And if there'll be two periods of the year, really today's year, when it comes to shaving and haircut, I'm talking about, really applies for the most part the same way now during Sefira, also during the 3 weeks. So I'm double dipping. You can refer to this year, a couple months from now, but not even. But Sefira is something, shaving is something, which in the workplace today could be a lot of people could get away with for 2 periods a year, a few weeks during the entire year, you come to work unshaven. It could be. And if that works for you, pun intended, so then that would be great because you could be mekayim the halachos of Sefira, the avelos of Sefira, and it doesn't take away from your job. Obviously, those where it would be an issue, okay, there's room to permit. But my starting point is we should understand this extra stubble that a person has on his face, although it might be annoying, it might be itchy. Here in Florida, you schwitz even more. Okay, but your wife doesn't like it, your mother doesn't like it. We'll put all the things on the list. End of the day, it is a mother-in-law. She doesn't get a voice. But Lamaisa, don't talk on that. Lamaisa, it is a great expression of avelos, and it's meaningful if a person's able to keep his beard, his unshaven face, matov manoyim. That's beautiful, no matter what your mother or mother-in-law said. But going through the halacha, I did come across my goal is to find a dozen, and I found a dozen. A dozen different heterim that we could perhaps utilize throughout, throughout life, different stages of life. It applies to, some of these might be past our prime, but it might apply to the next generation, all different things. So let's go through a list of a dozen heterim for people to be allowed to shave during Sefira. Now I'm going to start with heter number 1. I gave out an Erev Shabbos, and some people utilized it. And it's something which only comes up some years based on the calendar. If you look in the Mishnah Berurah, Sif Katan Hey, it's the first Mishnah Berurah on the page. It's by Beis. So he's talking there about the different minhagim. If you read 3 lines into the wide lines, to the end of the line, even those people that start to count right away, they already had an Isser pre-Rosh Chodesh year. You're doing the first Sefira. If the calendar works it out, the Rosh Chodesh comes out on Shabbos. Since you have extra simcha, right? I hope everybody had something extra to eat Shabbos day. It's Shabbos and Rosh Chodesh combined, a double kavod. Yesh lahatir listaper be'erev Shabbos, right? You should be matir to shave an erev Shabbos. When they kavod HaShabbos, in terms of kavod Shabbos, and gam lisa isha boba yom, you can even get married that day. Kivan shikar suda yeh b'Shabbos Rosh Chodesh. Right? The concept, at least for shaving here, is since yesterday was Shabbos Rosh Chodesh, for that extra kavod, Shabbos plus Rosh Chodesh, there's a heter to shave. Black and white, Mishnah Berurah. There are one potential issue that this creeps into. Some people don't shave on any Rosh Chodesh because they're Yehuda HaChassid. But most poskim say, even if you normally keep Rabbi Yehuda HaChassid had these wishes, that itself is debatable. It's not halachic, it's a chumrah. But even Rabbi Yehuda HaChassid had these things that people makabel. One of them is not to shave normally on Rosh Chodesh. Shave or take haircuts on Rosh Chodesh itself. But most poskim say, even Rabbi Yehuda HaChassid, when it comes to Friday is Rosh Chodesh, and you're shaving with Kavod Shabbos, so then 100% that's mutter. So even though it was a 2-day Rosh Chodesh, and practically you're shaving on Rosh Chodesh, most poskim, and if you looked around, most people do keep this black and white Mishnah Berurah, that one, right? Not black and white cookie, black and white Mishnah Berurah, that one could, which really means, I'll say in a moment, I'll say a little bit later in the story, should shave for Kavod Shabbos and Kavod Rosh Chodesh. So that's heter number 1. Okay? I got 11 more. Now that one, if you missed it, you missed it. But now you know for the future. Black and white Mishnah Berurah. Now I decided, let's start with the heterim that are clear in the Shulchan Aruch. Okay? So let's go back to the Shulchan Aruch. Aleph. On the Marmakomos, this is Tav Tzadi Gimel Sif Beis. Okay? Nogan l'shol l'staper ad Lag BaOmer. We have a minhag not to shave, take haircuts until Lag BaOmer. Shomim she'az paschal b'limnos. Because we say at Lag BaOmer is when the Talmidei Rabbi Akiva stopped dying. Then l'staper ad Yom Lamadal b'boker. Very important for the Sfardim in the room. The Mechaber says one cannot take a haircut, shave until the morning of the 34th. You see this theme all the time. Even Svardim, which wait to the 34th day, The one time they are able to do earlier is Kavod Shabbos. It's already the second mention. Kavod Shabbos is a big deal now.
Kavod Shabbat.
Right. Kavod Shabbat, you're right. Right? Now we saw a moment ago the Mishnah Berurah said Kavod Shabbos plus Kavod Rosh Chodesh. That puts you over the top even where you started your Avelos.
Does the Sfardim get married on Lag BaOmer?
34. Right.
They don't get married on Lag BaOmer.
The Sfardim hold that Lag BaOmer is a full day. The Ashkenazic trick, which I'm about to show you in a second, is the Ramah. They hold Mixas Yom Kikulo. So as long as the morning of the 33rd came up, that's considered a good day. Ashkenazim cheat. The Sfardim do it full. We need 33 full days. So you can't get married like BaOmer. You have to be post. Haga, the Ramah adds, Dino Seino in our countries, Ein Nogim Kedvara, we don't go like the Mechaber, El Mistaber B'Yomam Gimel Omer, Umarim Bo Ksas Simcha, Beimam Bo Tachdon. Right, the Ksas Simcha is not that you don't say Tachdon, but I can't resist. I saw a very cute meme someone showed me. It says, your subscription to No Tachdon ends today. If you want to continue, you click here to join Chasidus. So yes, right?
I sent it to John.
Yeah. Oh,
Which Hasidus?
take your pick.
And my father sent it. Really, my father gets credit.
Okay. All right, we're spreading around the world. Now, so here you have the Mechaber sets up, 33 days, full days, Ramaz, Mekel for Lag BaOmer, but continuing on, the halacha continues, skipping the Mishnah Berurah in between, went to the next page. The ein l'staper Lag Gimel ba'atzmo v'omin be'erev, right? You can only shave on Lamed Gimel itself, not an Erev Lamed Gimel. You need the mix of Yom. Miyom Chal b'Yom Rishon, Nogim l'staper b'Yom Vav Kavod Shabbos. Once again, if Lag BaOmer is going to come on Sunday, we'll take haircuts on Friday. The Kavod Shabbos. The third time you already mentioned Kavod Shabbos. That's a big deal.
I heard 31.
Okay, right? Umishu Bal Bris. This is the line I wanted to get to. Omo Beno, Mutter L'Staper B'Sefira L'Chavod Hamila. If you are the Bal Bris, we'll see in a moment what that means. O Mo Beno, or you are doing a bris to your son, which that's the default sentence. So then you could shave. Let me just see the Mishnah Berurah. Mishnah Berurah I put on top of the page. Yud Beis over there in the Mishnah Berurah. Baal bris hainu hasandik v'hamol v'abiyaden. Who is allowed to shave? Over the kid. It doesn't need to be shaved. But who needs to shave? The sandik, the mole, and the aviyaben. Even if the Aviyah Ben is not the mole, would still be allowed to take a shave. But if you get a different kibbut, right, you're the kvater, you're bringing the baby, you bring it from Kisei Eliyahu, you can't shave. But the main players, the sandik, the mole, the Aviyah Ben, the big three, they are allowed to shave for a bris. So right in here, okay, if you get a bris during the 3 weeks, during the Sefira, you 100% would be allowed to shave because it's a simcha, covered, even though there's an element of avelos, but covered for the bris supersedes that. And therefore we say you shave. Yes?
I assume they would have to shave the day before the bris unless there's some strange reason the bris is in the afternoon.
Good point. Yeah, good point. L'chara, you could, right. You don't, the brises are in the morning. We usually don't even shave necessarily before davening. So yeah, one would be allowed to shave even the night before. We didn't make that up. Okay, so that's one nice heter. Okay? If you're the big three for a bris, you could shave. If you're not one of the big three, then you can't. Yes. Yes, yes. Pash Pshat, you are correct. When we talk about lestaper, it's really both. It's a shave and a haircut. Now, all he talks about is bris milah. There's no mention here of something that usually comes with bris milah on the first child 30 days later, pidyon haben. Would one be allowed to shave for a pidyon haben that comes out during Sefira? What would you say?
Who? Something. The Kohen?
Uh-huh.
Father?
Maybe the Kohen, maybe the father. What would you say? Are you allowed to shave for bris, for pidyon haben? Josh, what outranks? If you had a choice, okay? I could only make one. I could only come late one morning to work. I have one day left. I'm informed of a bris and invited to a pidyon haben. Which should I go to?
Both of your rights.
Huh?
It's both the rights.
They're both the right.
The bris is more common.
Bris is more common. Go to the bris. So I would advise you as a financial Olam Haba advisor, go to the pidyon haben. You know why? Now, what I really would tell you is figure out which relationship is more important to you and which one.
I was assuming in the question that all things were equal.
Yes, but assuming all things are equal, Chazal say going to a pidyon haben, part of it, yeah, because it's not so frequent. You could have families that for generations don't have pidyon habens, right? Based on the lineage and all that. 1 second. By pidyon haben, they say it's considered, you go to one pidyon haben, it's considered as if you fasted many, many fasts. So that's a good schar. By a bris, it's as if you ate many bagels. So it's not the same schar. So if you had a choice between a pidyon haben and a bris, why don't you go to the pidyon haben? Yes.
So I actually experienced this as Gabbai.
Yes.
We had
Gabbai can't shave.
twin boys whose bris fell out on the same day that someone else's pidyon haben fell out. So when you have twin boys and they both getting a bris the same day, you have to do one bris, then you have to take a small break and then do the other bris. So the question came up, can you do the pidyon haben between the two bris?
Wow, sandwich.
And the answer was no, you have to do the pidyon haben before the bris.
Really?
That was what the Rav Paskin did.
Very interesting. I wonder why he said the pidyon haben comes first.
He said the pidyon haben comes first.
That's very interesting because usually we're very makbid in Zrizim Makdimim by a bris. I'll tell you on the side.
Sharfman also gave a shir years ago that pidyon haben, if it has to be 30 full days. So if the 30 full days comes out at 4 in the afternoon,
Right,
you
before
can't do
the
it at 9
right,
in the
right,
morning.
right. So that's very interesting. It's a very interesting sauce.
So maybe you be here.
You have to tell me when that happened. How long ago? This is a rough, but very interesting.
About 15 years.
But despite the fact that pidyon haben is a big occurrence, an exciting thing, you never got a pidyon haben?
Huh?
You get a pidyon haben?
No.
Huh?
No.
But okay, let's see with your brother.
Mine.
Lamaisa, Bez Hashem. The post can bring down. I see a sefer I have where the posting of one of the posting in Lakewood, Shmuel Felder, asked his shiloh to Rav David Feinstein, and Rav David says there is no heter for a pidyon haben. And the interesting reason is Chazal say bris milah is a tremendous simcha. Now, pidyon haben is a big simcha, especially if this counts for many fasts. But it's not the madrega of simcha. Chazal go out of their way to say there's tremendous simcha by bris. Pidyon haben is also simcha, but not the same level. And therefore, one cannot shave for a pidyon haben. Very interesting. So the heter is only for a bris, not for a pidyon haben. Now, I figured, yes, even the Kohen. Now, I figured once I start with bris, I might as well go through the life cycle and go through potential other heter. A bar mitzvah. Okay? We did the bris, we did the pidyon haben. You have a bar mitzvah that falls out during Sefira.
You don't need to skip.
Is there a heter for shaving?
You don't need to skip Tachanun for that.
So you say not.
At least Ashkenazim.
Yard site of 12th generation revenue.
So I'll tell you an interesting thing. Who are we talking about for a bar mitzvah? Right.
Well, he can, because it's before the stomach.
So there already, the fact that he becomes a man when he's 13, it's viewed differently than a bris, where the Baal Simcha there is really the father. The Baal Simcha of a bris is viewed as a boy, and the issue that the poskim judge, could the boy shave for his bar mitzvah? Now, most kids don't have the shiloh by their bar mitzvah. They can't shave by their bar mitzvah. Puberty didn't hit them that much. But if you do have, right, somebody that already needs to shave by the age of a bar mitzvah, the post can come up with a very interesting chap. You should shave before your bar mitzvah as a katan. Nice chap, right?
You didn't put it on film before already?
Yeah, because the issue of veils is really going to hit you the day you become a bar mitzvah. Great, shave the night before, the day before.
We've talked about other things where
That's where Shlomo Zalman Orbach's
we've talked
chap.
about other things before where a bar mitzvah boy becomes and Hanukkah and
Yeah.
counting Sefira and all these things.
Right. Very interesting, right?
That's of the same milk. Wow.
Yeah. So Shlomo Zalman said let him shave before as a katan. However, others, the Nesivus himself says you could shave even as a gadol. That being the case. Okay, we got the bar mitzvah. Now let's talk about a chasan. A chasan, this is brought down.
Sure, what's enough for you to do that in the...
1 second, let me just jump up there.
Heterim.
A chasan has heterim basically from the ufraf till the end of the Shavuot brachos.
And that's it.
And that's it, yeah. Life is over. No. But there's a Shari Tshuva here that says the chasan would be allowed to shave for his ufraf if it would fall out during the 3 weeks slash Sefira. He would be allowed to shave obviously for his wedding, but even for every day of Shavuot brachos, a chasan would be allowed, chasan, say kala too, we'll get to that later, right? Would be allowed to shave. Okay? So we have bris, we have bar mitzvah, we have chasan. Those are, right, I think the nice life cycle events, talk about, what happens after you get married. There's no heter to shave for a funeral. It's pump care. Now,
Including the corpse.
yes. Now, let's walk back by a wedding. What about by a wedding, the attendees of a wedding? And this is very common. I just did this last week. I keep first Sefira, and I flew out to New York for some nice wedding.
I don't
So,
think you shaved.
huh?
I don't think you shaved.
How'd you know? I saw the pictures. Anyway, so it's a very interesting thing. If you look at the bottom of your sheets, I have quoted from Rav Moshe Feinstein. Misha Huzman l'chasna ba'ozam al gimel yamim shnagam iser. A person who's invited to a wedding during the time which he keeps Sefira, very prevalent, especially the way I set it up. And nowadays you have weddings all across Sefira. The only time you don't have a wedding is from now to like Omer. Like the Rebbeim in Yeshiva, they have to go to weddings every night. Take a deep breath. Okay, Chavetz Chaim, they'll give you till
It's torture when that
Yes.
happens.
So someone who, no.
Everyone's older. No.
Now, someone who is invited to a wedding, he adds the line, the below the stopper, and you can't go to this wedding without shaving. It's a black tie affair. You're going to come in looking grub. Mutter stopper. It'll be mutter for you to shave for this wedding. And it's a very interesting point. And I actually saw a knowledgeable chassan did this week. Right? Part of the issue here of the shaving for the chasna is if nobody cares, sounds like, okay, then you don't have a heter to shave. But if you need to shave to go to the wedding, Now, what defines if you need to shave to go to the wedding? So, the focal point is, what did the Baalei Simcha want? If the Baalei Simcha want the people to shave, that in the middle gives the people the heter to shave. So I saw a chassan sent around to his friends, he would like for his friends to shave, which gave them the heter to shave. Now there probably were some people that didn't shave. But where Moshe does write that you go into a chasna, and it's during Sefira, right? And the expectation is that people are going to shave. The one would shave for it doesn't hurt your Sefira. You're still keeping first Sefira, but you would shave for kavod of the chasna. So right there is a heter. Yes.
Is there a difference between shaving just enough for it to be good enough to go, or shaving completely? When
Yeah, there is something like trimming, but where Moshe does give a heter for that. Now let's back it up a step. Okay, so we did so far. I got 5 heterim in my. We had this past Friday's heter. We did bris, bar mitzvah, chassan, and now wedding attendees. I got 7 more to go, and the clock is ticking. Dating. Step it back. How did chassan get to the chuppah? He had to date. Now, usually, no, it could work out, right? If you're getting married during Sefira, Mustami didn't date during Sefira. It's not that quick. I don't know. Maybe some Israelis, but it's usually not that quick of a engagement and the like. But it could be you could date during Sefira and get married not right after. You wouldn't get married during the 3 weeks. Okay. But Lamaisa, let's say you're dating during Sefira during the 3 weeks. So I remember in yeshiva, we were told the following idea. Pashup Pshat is one should shave during Sefira because a person makes a better impression for sure in the earlier dating. If you're already dating for, a period already and they know you, okay, so it's not a first impression. So perhaps in that situation you wouldn't need to shave. But if you're first starting dating, first impressions matter, and a person usually looks better when they're shaven than when they're grubby. I remember in yeshiva used to come up, webs are the girls really from? And she expects you not to shave because it's Sefira, because, okay, if that's the situation, then maybe you don't have to shave. And it became all these things. I don't know the girl yet. What should I do? Should I shave? Should I not shave? And that's our poor day, and we were busy. There's such shilas. But the default is, if someone is dating, one would be allowed to shave. Now, try keeping that from your friends when you're trying to secretly date. You go out the back door in yeshiva, and all of a sudden, in the middle of Sefira, you have a nice, baby cheeks. Right? You have every guy in yeshiva coming over to you. New? How's the date last night? So strategically, you would hope she's a frumy that wouldn't want you to shave, and you could keep your low profile. But
What about the opposite? If it doesn't know that you're allowed to shave, is there a minor sign?
yeah, so I'll get to that. Very good point. I'll get to that. We're going through a few more. Yeah. The heter to shave for work, which I mentioned in the past, that was really the starting point. That's an Igros Moshe, Chelak Dalot Siman Kuf Beis. That there Moshe gives a heter for those, again, both during Sefira and during the 3 weeks, if you need it for your job. And we said before, it should absolutely be needed for your job. If you really don't, then obviously it's better to not shave. Health, if for any reason for health, sometimes people have medical procedures or other things, okay, you need to shave, you shave. That's Pasha, that's an Aruch HaShulchan. That gets me to number 8. Now here's an interesting case, and this is based on one little line in the Bir Halacha. There's one little Bir Halacha in the middle of your page. We say there's a minhag not to shave. So the Bir Halacha writes, the people who are allowed to shave on Chol HaMoed, those who are allowed to shave on Chol HaMoed should be allowed to shave on Sefira because there's no It's no worse. Now, just for the record, the last thing I just spoke about was really work. Rav Moshe is not quick to give a heter at all to shave during Chol Moed for work. During Sefira, that's easier, that's a minimum. Chol Moed, as we touched on, right? Chol Moed is a bigger issue. That might be an Isser Malacha. So shaving for work during Chol Moed is not possible. But for when it comes to Sefira, Rav Moshe says whatever is mutter on Chol Moed to shave will be mutter for Sefira. When's the mutter to shave on Chol Moed? It's not work.
Get out of jail.
So they talk about cases of where the person before Yontif didn't have a chance to shave. One is if you got your get out of jail free card. The other situations, there are many situations. Someone told me two great cases, right? Hatzalah guys have this, right? They want to go and shave Erev Yontif, and they got a call, and they're out running the call. They make it back barely in time for Shabbos. They have no time to Yontif, no time to shave. Hatzalah guy in that type of situation will be allowed Yontif on Chol Moed to shave, and therefore that person, if he didn't get a chance Erev Yontif to shave, would be allowed to shave on Chol Moed, or if not then by Sefira. Similarly, someone told me a story happened to them. On Erev Yontif, there was, Alan sent out the email, he needed 10 people for a minyan, for a person's levaya. They went out to the cemetery, they helped dig the grave, which is really part of the mitzvah too. It's better for you to dig the grave than to have the workers. Everything to be done based on the Jews is always better. And you're busy doing that, you come back, you're schwitzing, you're sweating, you can't take a shave. So a person like that would be allowed to shave during Sefira. Very nice. Mustaches, you're always allowed to shave if it interferes with your eating. That's a halacha brought down by Hilchos Tisha B'Av, but applies over here too. If your mustache goes into your food, messes up your soup, you'll be allowed to trim your mustache. I saw Rav Shmuel Kamenetsky says interesting psak. Women and Ketanim also have the halachas of Sefira. Women also have there's certain heterim they have for women, different things. Ketanim, there are cases where I'm out there, but again, one of the heterim, Shmuel Kamenetsky gets to do an upsharing during Sefira. He says during the 3 weeks he's more machmer, but during Sefira you could have an upsharing. You don't have to wait for Lag BaOmer to do it by Meron with all the craziness. You can do it before. All right, we hope it on Meron on Thursday. It's okay. You can do an upsharing there. One last heter which is dear to my heart, which I would like to speak about in the last 5 minutes, is what they call the Chavetz Chaim heter. Now, I don't know why it's called Chavetz Chaim, because it wasn't just Chavetz Chaim. There's a famous thing that Chavetz Chaim, people shave on Friday to cover the Erev Shabbos. Where is that coming about? So that's really nothing to do with Chavetz Chaim Yeshiva. We happen to keep it. But it really stems from Magen Avram. Magen Avram in Hilchos Tisha B'Av talks about shaving L'Chavetz Shabbos. And the idea that expressed by the Magen Avram brought down by Chassam Sofer is if it's really shaykh to be Mekayim Shneim, you could keep Avelos and also keep Chavetz Shabbos. There we would say for Chavetz Shabbos you should shave. Meaning, let's say the average person would shave multiple times a week. There's enough growth for him to shave, let's say Tuesday and Friday. So during Sefira, during the 3 weeks, he doesn't shave every week Tuesday. So he'll come in Friday, will already be quite. So then one would be allowed to shave on Friday, the Chavetz Shabbos, because he did both. He has his Avelos, there's a hecker of Avelos. At the same time, you have Chavetz Shabbos. And we already saw multiple times here in Halacha how important Chavetz Shabbos is. Now, in the regular week, if he doesn't shave twice a week, not keeping the Avelos, wouldn't say Stam, shave for Chavetz Shabbos. Where there's really both, you have the Avelos, you also have Kavod Shabbos. So we say, okay, you did your Avelos. Now come Friday, you shave for Kavod Shabbos. Now really the idea of shaving, according to this idea, all times of Kavod Shabbos, not you could shave for Kavod Shabbos. You sometimes find this, like a guy, he wants to build up his beard during Sefira time. According to this idea, really it's a chiyuv to shave in the Erev Shabbos for Kavod Shabbos. Kavod Shabbos mechayev. This concept really dates back to Slobodka. Slobodka, they were very makbid on this Magen Avram for Galus Adam. The people being unshaven, is unkept, is lacking in Galus Adam. And it was Slobodka thing. They were very, very much makbid in this. So Chavetz Chaim stems from Slobodka, and that's why they shave. Back in the day, Ner Yisrael used to be also stemmed from Slobodka. Rav Ruderman was a Talmud of the Alter Slobodka. His mashgiach with David Kronglass, even though he himself wasn't a Slobodkanik, I assume Rav Ruderman asked him, would go door to door in the dorm, knocking on every single dorm room, telling the Talmidim, you have to shave for Kavod Shabbos. Now, somewhere along the line, these things got lost. The world got quote unquote frummer, but in reality, it was less frum because this is Kavod Shabbos to shave. Now, even Rav Henoch, I'll take a few questions in a moment. Rav Henoch was nervous with this type of thing. He told people they should shave and people in yeshiva should shave for Shabbos. But he used to say, if you live in a frum community where, the Baal Batim in the community are not going to shave and you're going to shave, they'll think like you're so weird. So then Rav Henoch said, okay, if you live in Brooklyn, if you live in Lakewood, okay, you can't shave anymore. But okay, so it got limited where exactly this had to apply. For sure, within the confines, in yeshiva for Shabbos, there would be such a thing. Now, I must tell a great story. Years ago, Rabbi Sharfman was in Eretz Yisrael. I believe it was Summersman, so he was there for during the 3 weeks, and he was in the Mir Yeshiva. And a famous Rebbe there in the Mir Yeshiva. I'll leave out his name, but let's just say he has his own yeshiva today. This famous Rebbe was giving a shiur about this topic, and he talked about, I once heard of some people, shave for Kavod Shabbos. Oh, we don't hold that way. Said some derogatory terms about such a heter. Rabbi Sharfman was no pushover. The shiur, he went and fought back and said, how could you disparage the clear sheet in the halacha? There are yeshivas that follow such a thing. Right. Rabbi Sharfman fought back against this Maggid shiur for disparaging such a practice. And Lamaisa, I think this topic is a good topic in general. The idea of shaving during Sefira, because like so many other things in halacha, it's a balance. You're balancing on the one hand the halachas, the minhagim that we have to keep Sefira into. That's our expression of avelos, practical thing we do to connect with the sad point of this time of the year. At the same time, there are situations of simchas, personal simchas, obligations of work, health, all different areas, and also mixed into it Kavod Shabbos. So weighing all these things, like many things, needs a posek, needs a rav, but there definitely are, at least we found here, a dozen scenarios one could be making to shave during Sefira. Thank you very much. Look forward to seeing everybody next week. Now that I'm off the tape, I could say, I have one friend of mine